In April 1961, the United States faced one of its most embarrassing and heartbreaking moments of the Cold War, a failed invasion that remains etched in memory as the Bay of Pigs disaster. The roots of the crisis stretched back to 1959, when Fidel Castro led a revolution that toppled the Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista. At first, many in the world saw Castro as a liberator. But soon, his ties to communism and alliance with the Soviet Union alarmed Washington. For the US, Cuba was just 90 miles off Florida's coast, and the idea of a communist state so close to home felt like an existential threat. The Eisenhower administration had already begun training Cuban exiles, men who had fled Castro's revolution, to return and overthrow him. When John F. Kennedy became president in 1961, he inherited the plan. Still young and new in office, Kennedy faced enormous pressure to appear tough against communism. He reluctantly approved the invasion, hoping it would spark a popular uprising against Castro. On April 17, 1961, about 1,400 Cuban exiles landed on Cuba's southern coast at a place called the Bay of Pigs. They expected surprise and support from anti-Castro Cubans. Instead, they were met with fierce resistance. Castro's forces quickly surrounded them, and local Cubans did not rise up as US planners had predicted. To make matters worse, Kennedy, fearing escalation with the Soviets, refused to provide full US air support. The exiles were stranded, outgunned, and left with no way to win. Within 3 days, the invasion collapsed. Over 100 were killed, and nearly 1,200 were captured. Many spent years in Cuban prisons, enduring harsh treatment before finally being released in exchange for supplies. For the families of those exiles, it was devastating. Their hopes of liberating Cuba were crushed, and their sons and brothers paid the price. Back in the United States, the Bay of Pigs was a national humiliation. Instead of weakening Castro, the invasion strengthened him. He declared victory over Yankee imperialism, rallied support at home, and drew even closer to the Soviet Union. For many Americans, it was a bitter reminder that even the United States, so powerful after World War II, was not invincible. For President Kennedy, the disaster was deeply personal. He admitted publicly that the invasion was his responsibility, famously saying, "Victory has 100 fathers, and defeat is an orphan." Though his approval ratings remained high, the Bay of Pigs scarred his presidency and convinced him never to trust military and intelligence advisors blindly again. For US audiences, the Bay of Pigs is heart-touching because it is a story of betrayal, miscalculation, and human cost. The Cuban exiles who risked everything were left stranded, while American families watched in frustration and sorrow. The invasion also became a lesson in the dangers of arrogance and the high stakes of the Cold War, a mistake that would lead directly to the Cuban Missile Crisis the following year, when the world stood on the brink of nuclear war. The Bay of Pigs remains a story of courage met with tragedy, of ambition undone by miscalculation, and of a nation learning painful lessons about the limits of power.